Bootlickers. What are they? Now, if you're in social media world, especially in the liberty world and the freedom, if you consider yourself a patriot, if you're in the gun community, you've probably heard this term thrown around. Oh, he's a bootlicker. What exactly is that? Over the weekend, we had a scenario where someone was said, Alex Booth was said to be in the process of being red flagged. And it was this big hoopla about the miscommunication, this, that, and the third, and what he was arrested for, so forth and so on, and were they coming to execute a warrant? Was he arraigned on domestic, violence charges? All of these different things. And as this rumor mill ran rampant, we saw a lot of people that, we saw a wedge issue. We saw some people that, were of the belief that you should wait until all of the facts are there before you attempt to help someone, which I disagree with. There were some people that were immediate. There were some people that, whatever. Wherever you stood on the issue, what we did see was a lot of thin blue line rhetoric. And thin blue line rhetoric means, that it ties into the concept of what a bootlicker is. A bootlicker is someone that believes that law enforcement and the government, because that's, to be very clear, that's what law enforcement is. They enforce, keyword being force, they force the average citizen to comply with the laws, okay? Now, if you are a bootlicker, you think that that law enforcement officer, who is the foot soldier for the state, you believe that they are right and that's just it. There's no questioning, there's no evaluation, tread harder, daddy. You'll hear that a lot too. Now I want to be very as objective as I can, because I have friends that are in law enforcement. I have family members that are in law enforcement. Their position for their job does not absolve them from objectivity and truth. It does not. I have people that are trainers, that are instructors on Instagram and Facebook and social media that I think are outstanding firearms representations of what a good firearms owner should be. But they still have a job that unfortunately is balanced and steeped in following unjust laws. Now let's take it back a bit. Slavery in America, where we live, the country that we all love, if you live here, right? Some people live in other places and want to live here. The country that we live in, slavery was sanctioned. It was okay. The people that used to go and chase the Harriet Tubmans of the world that ran away, the Frederick Douglasses of the world that ran away from enslavement, that fought for their own and others' freedom, there were people that were well within their lawful means to capture, bring back, and potentially kill these people that we identify as freedom fighters now. That is the reality. So the conversation has to lean, and we had a conversation about a bootlicker. You have to have a conversation about what is moral and what is lawful. Okay, those are two separate conversations. A bootlicker believes that once it's on the law books, it is the gospel truth. It is God's word. It is all of that. That's what they believe, especially in regards to law enforcement. A lot of times they come from law enforcement or military backgrounds, so forth and so on. Now, do I think that every law enforcement officer that puts the uniform on is going out saying, "Oh man, can't wait to kill Americans today"? No. I think the vast majority of them actually do not go out with the intent to murder or maim American citizens from whatever melanin content or lack thereof level, okay? However, that does not change the fact that if you are issued an order, law enforcement officers being one of the very few jobs that has discretion, most law enforcement officers are following unjust rules. Every single Second Amendment infringement law that law enforcement officers follow through on, they are infringing on our human rights. Law enforcement officers are foot soldiers for the state. Now, if that state is just or non-just is a whole nother conversation. Some of you bootlickers over the weekend, go back to the Alex Booth scenario. It was someone that was in distress, or at least presented that he was in distress, and said he was becoming red flag law. Now, law enforcement officers had conflicting stories. They said one thing, then switched it, then took it off their Facebook page from Putnam County. They switched it up. So in essence, what it boiled down to is this. Supposedly, and again, none of us were there. But even on their website or their Facebook page, they switched their story 3 times. So, as someone that has been in court against law enforcement officers, even in something as simple as a moving violation, they will lie. When law enforcement and politicians lie, it's politics, or it's them bending the rules. When we as citizens lie to them, it's offense. Okay, so that speaks to a contradiction, as well as the lack of equal treatment under the law. Now, this guy said he was being red flagged, so forth and so on, and then we can almost predict this. Then there's going to be people saying, oh, he was a woman beater. I'm someone that has been falsely accused of rape, and falsely, one of my children's mothers tried to take me to court for set of order of protection. Now, when you do that, someone's firearms have to be turned in based on certain laws of certain states. No due process, none of that. Now, we almost knew that someone standing up to the state in that aggressive manner is going to get hit with a smear campaign. So here's the theories that flew out about this guy. He already had a domestic felony warrant for domestic dispute. That contradicts exactly what the Putnam County department put on their Facebook page. They said that there was an officer that was going there to check on a previous domestic situation. It doesn't mean he's been charged and or convicted of anything. That means they went to ask about something and he told them fuck off, which is his right to do so. I want to be very clear because I want to tie this into make sure we're having a conversation, stick to the conversation about bootlickers. As Americans, we have the right to not accept any unreasonable searches or seizures, okay? If someone asks me, can we talk? I do not have to. Just because you're a law enforcement officer does not give you a bigger status than me as an American citizen. And if I am not currently under detainment for suspicion of an actual crime, I am free to go. So this person, they come onto the thing, they hit him with all of these other charges, criminal trespass, blah, blah, blah. They threw all of this other misinformation out. And so again, he did not have a domestic warrant, felony domestic warrant, because that officer also said, oh, he heard a gunshot upon going to ask about it. He heard what he thought assumed to be a gunshot. Now I want to say all this to say, there are holes in this law, this police department story. There's holes in it. Now let me also be clear. If Alex Booth lied and was beating up his wife and so forth and so on, cool. Let him have his due process, have his day in court, and he should be, held accountable for his actions. Be clear about that. Because he may have been dishonest about certain things does not mean that he still does not have due process, nor does that mean that law enforcement officers and departments and agencies do not lie. If you think that they are perfect, will never deceive you, will only tell the truth, you more than likely are a bootlicker. You believe that the state, even at the point of them smashing their boot in your face, instead of you trying to stop that, you'll just lick the boot. Oh, that's my favorite taste of leather. That's what a bootlicker is. Now, how we deal in objectivity? Red flag laws are supported by domestic disputes. That's one of the easiest ways to say this person has firearms, this person is dangerous. It's an easy way to slick and say it. Oh, they're suffering from PTSD. Whether that's true or not. So I want to make sure that we're maintaining objectivity. This also means that law enforcement officers do have a duty to, if someone's personal property or their physical well-being is being violated, law enforcement officers have the duty of stopping that violation saving and or protecting life. Let's be clear about that. So I'm not one of these people that's saying if you get a call that somebody's getting their ass whipped, you don't take the call because you don't want to violate their Fourth Amendment rights. If someone, no different than if someone is calling online saying I'm getting red flagged and I'm barricading myself because I'm in opposition to these red flag laws, you should send energy through social media, whatever. We are seeing a lot of bootlickers now renege or act as if we should not have galvanized or act like, well, where was this energy for other scenarios? Well, those weren't standoffs. The elder in Baltimore, 60-something-year-old man that was the first homicide because of red flag laws, there was no standoff for us to galvanize behind. When the Bundy Ranch happened, there was a standoff and people galvanized behind it. When there was the Move 9, there was people supporting and galvanizing behind that situation and move in Philadelphia where the government, local PD, dropped a firebomb on a 2-block radius of livable residencies. That is not right. That is morally bankrupt and spiritually corrupt. Let's be clear. You cannot be so blinded by false patriotism and nationalism that you are not calling a spade a spade. If you are in the space where you're believing every single thing that mass media puts out about law enforcement officers, every single thing that mass media puts out about those criminals in the ghetto, you're probably a bootlicker. How do we solve this? We solve it by telling the truth. We solve it by acknowledging that just because a person has on a uniform, it does not give them the right to kill, maim, violate Americans in any way, unjustifiably. It also does not give us the right to point the finger at those law enforcement officers that are trying to do the right thing being protecting property and saving life from actual, victims of crime. Robbery, rape, homicide. Okay? That doesn't mean we get to group everyone. We get to be objective. We get to tell the truth. The truth of the matter is, in scenarios where our human and constitutional rights to keep and bear arms, to move about freely, to assemble peacefully, to not have our private domiciles be violated, when those rules are being, human rights, not granted by government, are being violated by anyone, regardless of their source of employment, it is your human duty, responsibility, and right to defend yourself from those violations. As more Americans are honest about this simple fact, we will become more freedom-based again. We will have and respect more liberty again. And the level of fucking bootlicking will slowly start to dissipate. Evaluate. Ask yourself, are you serving masters? Are you conditioned? Are you about the freedom that you say you live for? Is that the American way to be a bootlicker just because someone has on a blue or militarized uniform? If you can honestly say that it is not, I want you to study up, make sure you're being objective, honest, regardless of who the perpetrator in the violation of the Constitution, human rights, as stated in the Bill of Rights is, and continue to push for liberty. That makes you a solutionary, and it's always solutionaries versus the state. Be safe, be solutionary.